Hmm, what would the world be like without love? ¿Qué sería del mundo sin amor? Well, that's the conditional. In today's lesson, we're going to learn how to use the conditional in Spanish. So let's take a look at how to form the conditional tense in Spanish. Just like the future tense, that all the verbs ending in AR, ER, and IR follow the same pattern, the same things happens with the conditional. The only difference is that the conditional ends in ia. So for instance, for the form of yo, it will be daría, ser, sería, or vivir, viviría. So if I wanted to do the form of nosotros, it will be, for instance, viviríamos, seríamos, or daríamos. All you have to do is add the ending to the infinitive verb when these verbs are regular. Irregular verbs in the future are also irregular verbs in the conditional. So let's take a look at two irregular verbs. So let's begin with the verb poner. In the form of nosotros, in the future, it will be pondremos. And in the conditional, it will be pondríamos. So notice that in both the future and conditional, there is a stem change. Now let's try the verb querer. In the form of yo, it will be querré, no R and accent on the E. And in the conditional, it will be querría. Now notice the double R, which is very important, because if you don't have it, then it won't be the conditional, it will be the imperfect tense. So now let's take a look at the uses of the conditional. So the first one is to express what would happen under certain circumstances. So for example, if I'm having a conversation with a friend and I'm telling her that I'm going to be visiting Ecuador this summer, she can ask me, ¿qué ciudad de Ecuador visitarías primero? So this means, which city in Ecuador would you visit first? So I'm going to talk about what would happen when I get there. The second use of the conditional is to make polite requests. So for example, ¿le importaría echarme una mano? Would you mind giving me a hand? So in this example, I'm using a verb like gustar, importar. And because I'm referring to the usted form, would you mind, then I need the le before the verb importaría. Now, echarme una mano is the equivalent of giving me a hand. So the third use of the conditional is to express what someone said or thought would happen in the past. And notice that the key event here is what would happen in the past. So I'm referring to a past action. So for instance, if I say, creí que hoy haría viento, it means that probably yesterday I thought it would be windy today. So notice that what I thought would happen yesterday was that I thought, and that triggers the conditional would be, which is the equivalent of haría. And the last use is to express probability or conjecture in the past. So just like we use the future to express probability in the future, we use the conditional, but remember that probability needs to be perceived in the past. So when we have expressions such as wondered, must have been, or was probably, They are the equivalent of the conditional in Spanish. So let's take a look at an example. ¿A qué hora regresaría? I wonder what time he returned. So notice that in English, the verb to return is in the past tense. But because it has the wonder at the beginning of the sentence, then that triggers the conditional. Next example. Serían las 8. It must have been 8 o'clock. So the key to understand the difference between the future and the conditional is that we use the future to express future actions, but those actions are perceived in the future. While the conditional expresses as well a future action, but that action was perceived in the past. So let's take a look at an example. People say they will marry, which means la gente dice que se casarán. So the perceived action in the future will be to get married. Now, in the second example, people said they would get married. La gente dijo que se casarían. Still, that action of getting married was perceived, but in the past. So notice that in the first sentence, the main verb, decir, is in the present. And then the second verb is will marry. And in the second sentence, the main verb is in the past. And the future action that is perceived in the past is to get married. And that's it for today.